Hey everybody, welcome to July's Automationeers Assemble gathering. Usually this is where I ask you to please mute, but with Zoom I'm able to control that myself. So thank you for being on time. Please note that this is being recorded and the video will be made available to watch later. I'm Dave Hunt, Engineering Manager for the Firefox Performance Testing team. I started these gatherings as a way to keep up with the latest projects and practices. The current format is a monthly gathering with a guest to talk about a project they're working on or a passion of theirs. This format is still working after about a year. I think in 2 days' time, it will be the first anniversary of the current format. So thank you everybody for attending and supporting and providing feedback. If you haven't been a guest yet, please consider it, although I'll probably invite you sooner or later. Please join the Automationeers channel on IRC or Slack. They may be used for sharing resources and can be used for discussions and questions. I try to schedule these once a month. The times and dates vary depending on the guest's availability. Next month we have Kyle Landakowski and Greg Niezwinski, both easy to pronounce and spell surnames there, talking about active data. There's currently availability for October to December, so if you are interested in being a guest, please let me know, or if there is a guest you'd like me to reach out to or a topic you're interested in, please get in touch. So this is the first time that we're using Zoom after the transition from video, so hopefully this will go smoothly. As usual, we may not use up the full hour, and there will hopefully be some time for questions. And so if you've just joined us, I'd like to remind you to please remain muted unless you have something you need to, a question you need to ask or something you wanted to say. And once more, note that this event is being recorded. So our guest today is Kimblerly Sereduck. Kimblerly is on IRC and Twitter as Kimblerly the Geek and posts in long form at kimblerlythegeek.com. She's based in Durango, Colorado, and she is passionate about accessibility on the web. And like me, she also likes to run. Kimblerly's going to be talking to us today about interoperability testing with Firefox. So over to you, Kimblerly.
And mountain biking, running and mountain biking. Hi, so interoperability test engineering. After the reorg last December, I was put onto a new team to test interoperability, basically how Firefox interacts with other software, or rather how other software interacts or interferes with the functionality of Firefox. One of the top level KPIs was identify why users leave Firefox. And we, as in the case with Firefox 57, it's well known antivirus programs can be especially problematic. So the main goal here was to identify crashes caused by third-party software. We didn't know what we would find. We didn't know we would find anything when we started doing this. So it was really important just to get at the data as quickly as possible, you know, not reinventing the wheel, just get some information and, you know, figure out where to go from there. So we took a project, an internal tool called Bug Hunter, also known as Sisyphus, maintained by Bob Clary, who's actually here, who's currently the one, like I said, maintaining and running the tests. Bug Hunter is a tool that tries to reproduce crashes from URLs in Socorro. So it fetches crash reports from Socorro, gets the URL and opens that URL on a variety of virtual machines with different operating systems using different Firefox builds. And I do actually have a somewhere. I have too many windows. They're all relevant. A kind of an overview of the structure of how the infrastructure is designed, is set up. There's one main virtual machine, which is Linux, which kind of controls and sends all the tests to each worker. And there, in our tests, we have 7 Windows 10 workers, and each virtual machine has a different third-party application installed, except the first one, which is just a default kind of for a baseline and comparison. So we have 5 antivirus programs, Avast, AVG, Avira, Kaspersky, and 360 Total Protection. And some of those we chose because they were the most popular, like AVG and Avast. The rest were chosen because, frankly, they were free, and we didn't have to go through the process of getting licenses for everything, which was just, it would have slowed us down even more. And the last one, number 7, has a screen reader on there, just throw in some accessibility testing as well. The NVDA non-visual display access screen reader. So the way that Bug Hunter works is it creates an entry, like a site test run, a test run entry in a database for each URL, each Firefox build, well, each combination of URL, Firefox build, and operating system. And then it does basically load balancing and spreads each test run across the workers with the same operating system. So Bob is testing Windows 10 and Fedora, I believe. So, you know, when he initiates a run, say there's 200 URLs, 200 would go to all 10 of his Fedora workers, and 200 would go to all 10 of the Windows 10s. And so each one doesn't test every URL, which for us was problematic. You know, each one is different. We need to test all 200 of our URLs on each worker. The 200 URLs, sorry, I have another window. 200 URLs that we are using are just the top 200 for web traffic, because we really want to identify problems that affect the most users possible. Well, not in the right directory, I don't think. Okay, it doesn't matter. So I had to figure out how to, I say I figured out, but really it's mostly Bob that helped me do this. I had to solve the problem of getting tests to run concurrently, because if I say turn everything off except for one, do a test run, turn it off, do another test run on another virtual machine, it's not only kind of annoying and inefficient, but you know, a test run can take up to sometimes 20 hours, sometimes it's very short. You test on different days, you're not going to be testing the same nightly build, and also efficiency is important. So the best way to do that, well, the fastest way to do that, because we were really under a time crunch to get information, was to basically couple the Firefox build and the configuration. And when I say configuration, I mean which third-party app is installed. So the default, you know, with Avast, things like that. So that, thankfully, it worked, and it worked well, and that's still how it's running now. The way that we have it set up now, it's not a long-term solution. We haven't really decided where to move forward from there, but it's up and it's running, and it has been catching errors, which the next part of the project was to actually generate reports. So the original Bug Hunter UI, which is what Bob still uses as far as I'm aware, me personally, I found it a little difficult to really know what I was looking at and like digest the data. And so we opted in the beginning just to use this was the 3rd report that we did. So we just used spreadsheets, and I created filtered views that you could see like anything with Kaspersky, which there's nothing there. NVDA, there were a lot, and I think most of them are out of memory errors, so that's actually analyzing the data wasn't part of my job. Someone else gets to do that. But I, you know, find stuff and, you know, file bugs, and, you know, hopefully we're finding real world problems. And so my reports were just this spreadsheet and using formulas to get all these numbers. And for all hands, I did a presentation on this, and I thought, if I can, I had a week to go, and I was like, if I can get a dashboard up before this talk, I'll do it. And I was very happy because I did it successfully. But a big part of that working out well was because I did all of this and I did the formulas. I found out Google Sheets has an API, and so I don't have to like get the data from the spreadsheet and then like recalculate all of these numbers. I just fetched literally the data in each cell and put it in a React application, which I was pretty happy with how it turned out. This is also, don't get excited, it's just a prototype. I know everyone loves dashboards at Mozilla, but like I said, something I threw up really quickly to really just better visualize what you're looking at. Like I said, in VDA, we've had quite a lot of problems, and I don't know, we recently upgraded the RAM from 8 gigabytes to 16, recently as in today. So we're unsure if those are real problems or not, because almost all of the out-of-memory errors are on NVDA. But we have, there is at least a variety. It's not all just on one worker that we're seeing these issues. Eventually, like I said, we don't know the future of the project. Tantalus, as it is now, is not going to be a long-term solution. But in the future, we would also like to expand to include more accessibility software and Firefox extensions. And I think that's about it that we're kind of hoping for. Yeah, I guess I don't know if I have much more to say, but it's been quite a learning process, both dealing with, not dealing with, but learning a very large code base that lots of different people have touched, and getting it to work differently, even if it's not I guess, a complete solution or a production-ready solution. It is catching things, and I don't know what it means, but it's exciting. So I did have the last slide. So my manager is Matt Brandt, and we hang out in Fight Club, Firefox Interoperability Test Engineering. So yeah, thanks for your time. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I had a few. I'm curious if you'd noticed, I know it wasn't a focus, but if you noticed the impact that third-party software has on performance, like if these are sort of standard test runs, I guess, of successful tests, did they run faster or slower on depending on what was installed?
That's actually something I didn't think to look at, because I've looked at how long a run takes, but I didn't actually notice if it was different, like if there was a pattern for different ones. But that would be something to look at, because the numbers, like I said, are wildly different. I mean, some of them would be done within a couple of hours, and some of them would be running for 16. So
that's interesting. So is that data available for us to do, or would it be a new set of runs?
Really, I'd have to just do a SQL queries to see like when the first run completed, or when it was initiated and when the last run completed. Because I do, like, basically it's like a tag or a note that with a timestamp. So each entry will have a timestamp on it of when it was started.
And you might have answered this already, but maybe I missed it. Is this running continuously, or is this something we kick off on demand?
Now it's kicking off on demand. For a little while, when we were leading up to all hands, trying to get a lot of data, I had it running twice a day on a cron job. And right now, So we've tried testing a few different builds. We cut out debug builds, but right now it's testing ASON, Nightly, and Beta. And we want to do something like this for release as well. And we're still scoping out what the future of Tantalus looks like. So.
I'm always interested in where projects get their names, probably because I'm so bad at naming projects. Where does Tantalus come from?
So Sisyphus, the code name for Bug Hunter, I'm not sure, maybe Bob can answer this. I'm not sure why they named it Sisyphus, but it is a Greek myth. A man who was punished to forever roll a boulder up a hill, and as soon as it got to the top, it would roll down again. But he had to keep doing it for all of eternity. And it's actually used to describe tasks that are both like rigorous and meaningless or something like that. So I'm not sure why they use that. But Tantalus, I did not come up with that, but Chris Knowles, the ops guy that basically did great. Like he did all of our ops stuff and helped out a lot. He's the one who decided to name it Tantalus. Which is another Greek myth of someone who was doomed to lay beneath the fruit tree, but whenever he reached for the fruit, it would move out of his grasp. And water, standing in water, but every time he would try to, take a drink, it would all go down to nothing. So it's not like the best, I don't know, it's not a project that sounds like you want to work on, but it is what it is.
It still sounds like a cool name. What would you say was your most challenging aspect to getting the project to where it is now?
Well, it was just a lot of manual work, because the way that it was built, it was put up and running, and there was really never a reason to change it for their purposes. So a lot of things are like hard coded, or there's data in a lot of different places that has to be changed. If I change something in one place, I have to change it on every single virtual machine. So really just like keeping track of everything, because I could get something working and then try to do it again for another machine and not understand why it's not working, because there's just so many boxes that you have to check. So it was my first time dealing with legacy code and doing something like that. So I feel like I learned a lot. It was frustrating, but I learned a lot.
I'm curious, if you were to start the project all over again, and maybe had less time constraints, more resources perhaps, what would you do differently?
I have thought a lot about that, because that was kind of on the table before we decided to proceed with Bug Hunter. But I don't really know a lot about automating the provisioning of virtual machines, but I know that it's possible. So what I was hoping is to be able to spin up virtual machines from an image that already exists that I've created, say, Windows 10 with Avast, and be able to run tests and then export them. Because right now there's actually, each worker has to have all of the code on it, and they has to have environment variables set on it. So what I would like to do is have the main virtual machine be the one with all of the information. You just turn on these machines and you send out what to do, and then it reports back, and then that's it. How exactly that would be possible, I don't know. But that's what I'd like to do.
Maybe version 2.
I hope so.
Hey, I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you ever kind of integrate console error logging, like JavaScript console error logging into this? Do you think that would be applicable to finding these kind of errors?
I have no idea. That's not an approach that we took. Basically, it just opens the browser on each worker, and it's large code base, so I don't know exactly the process that it takes, but if it encounters an error or Firefox crashes, the data is reported out to the database.
All of that is in the log. All of the standard out and standard error is contained in the log, but the JavaScript errors and that kind of thing aren't parsed and tracked. I had a question about the problems with the different vendors. And do you guys have a back channel to talk to them to say, hey, look, we've noticed that your product takes 16 gig to run, and are you aware of the problems, you know, that Firefox has with your product? Is there a back channel for that?
No, that's not something that we have begun doing. I'm not sure if we will be doing anything like that, but I would like something to happen because it's not just, you know, Firefox that antivirus programs cause problems with. I mean, I was having problems today with Sigwin and antivirus. So, yeah, no, I guess is the short answer.
Is your Google Sheet with your results? I noticed your dashboard was local, but is the Google Sheet available to share?
Yes, I believe. Let me check permissions. I might have already opened it up to everyone. Yes, it's view only, but I can. Should I post that in Zoom or?
If you pop it in Zoom, I'll make sure it's distributed to anybody else as well.
Okay.
And I'm also interested in the dashboard code using the Google API. So is that something that is shared or just local?
I don't think that I put that in a repo, but I can. I did have the window open. So it's actually pretty straightforward. So where is it? I still have log statements. So the ID of the spreadsheet, and then you get you specify the range that you want. So you could get several sheets at once, I believe, and I think it would just create a multi-dimensional array because that's what it returns. And this is the name of the sheet. This is the name of the second sheet that I'm pulling the summaries from. And yeah, it I actually have the console log statement. So this is what the data looks like after you get it, and I basically just created an object, a JavaScript object, and plugged it in. So.
Cool. That's awesome. Impressive that you pulled that together in the last week before all hands.
Yes, I was very impressed with myself. I was like, yes, I'm that awesome. So I was like, I might be able to do this. So I gave it a shot. And actually, I had like some of it up, and I finished it at all hands. So doubly impressed with myself.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Kimberly? Okay then, so just to wrap up then, thank you Kimberly, and thank you to everybody else for attending. As mentioned earlier, look out for an invitation to next month's gathering with Kyle and Greg. But otherwise, take care. See you all next time. And thanks again, Kimberly.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everyone who showed up.
Cheers.
Yeah.